Welcome to the Marathon Marketing Moment. In these podcasts, we share tips on how to improve your photography business and make you more profitable. And now, here is your host, Mark Weber.
Hi, everybody. This is Mark at Marathon Press. I have a special guest with me here today, Brandy Moton from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Brandy is one of those talented individuals in our organization, and she has been a full-time photographer since 2001. Or I should say, 2008 is when she went full time. She's been in the industry though since 2001. She recently first opened her studio location where she continues to photograph volume, sports, corporate headshots, and high school seniors. And a little background on Brandy. Before her photography life, she was in upper management in the American Red Cross for 12 years, working with all sorts of scheduling and logistics for blood drives across Oklahoma and Texas. My God, Brandy, how in the world did you cover all that ground? I mean, Texas is its own state, an own world. It's so big. So, my goodness. No wonder you're so organized. And in fact, you even said it here. It says, little did I know this would help me create such a cost-effective and smooth photo day process in my current business. Anybody that's efficient enough to cover those two states, oh my gosh, yeah, that definitely had to teach you a few lessons.
Yep.
I also love, if people haven't seen your work before, Brandy, it is so diverse. It's beautiful and creative. I am always blown away with the quality that you produce, whether it's volume sports or your seniors or anything else that you do. It's like you've had all day to take that one shot and you nail it. I can't do that. So that's why I'm glad you're on this podcast with me today, because I want to talk about how to prepare, set up, and photograph high volume photography and learn what in the world you are able to do this and make it look so easy. So if that sounds good to you, that's what we'll concentrate on.
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Brandy, tell me, when it comes to getting ready to do picture day, how do you begin to promote this? You have to be able to let people know you're going to be there. So what do you do? Where do you start?
With my contact. I work a lot smaller scale than a lot of my friends. So I don't have staff. It's just me and them. And then my husband helps on youth days if we have youth groups. Varsity, I work through my coaches. I work through, if the boosters have hired me, I work through my boosters directly. And then I make sure I send them anything for online purposes. Send this out to your group me, send this to your Facebook page, send this to whatever you communicate to these parents, send that. Same from the top to the bottom. I do that with I'm not seniors. I do that with varsity. I do that with youth. So,
Smart.
I just find my person. I'm like, you're my person. You make sure the word is out. And we don't work so large. I don't want to work that large that it's an issue. Like, we don't go out and set up, 10 tents and bring in 1,000 kids where you've got to make sure you have all of those parents to notify. I'm working with a lot smaller scale because that's what works for me.
Are you doing that on purpose? Do you kind of say, anything bigger than 300-400 kids, I don't just want to do, or how do you handle that?
Yeah. I don't go after it. I just don't. My friend is actually taken on. I don't want to work that hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I know how hard I want to work. That's not it.
Smart.
I'm one show. And so I do what makes me comfortable, what I know I can handle, and that's what I go after. So I have a lot of the surrounding areas here, the youth. So I may get their league, which may not be, but maybe 150 football players, so we'll divide that up and I do during the week so that I have a life on the weekends. And I've talked a lot of these parents into saying, we want to do it during the week. That way I'm not messing with your game day and you can concentrate on that. And we can take literally 10 to 15 minutes out of your practice and you go to practice.
Nice.
We moved it that way so where we're not working ourselves to death.
So you found that balance of work and life.
I had to, because I about didn't make it.
That's a very important part. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up. In a future podcast, that's one of the things I'm covering too, is having that balance of work and life. And it's important that you recognize that, because I can't tell you how many friends have burned out because they didn't have that. And it causes stress on the family, marriages, relationships, you name it. So I'm very impressed to hear that.
You have to, my youngest has just graduated high school, and my oldest he's 22. And the worst thing that you can say, you can hear, is, well, what are you guys going to do tonight? What's it matter? You're just going to work.
Oh, ouch. Ouch.
That's when I said that.
That did it. Yep. Well,
Oh,
so keeping it manageable, and I also like how you're utilizing the staff. So you're not having to hire extra people that would kill your profits. You're using the staff to help you organize, promote. Do you have some printed material too that you send out, or how do you handle that?
not these days. These days, because we are moving in a different way with our youth, and we tried it out for baseball. We'll come back to that.
Mhm.
But for everything is done through texting with these parents. And I'm finding that this generation of parents, yeah, it's wow.
It's a different
Everything.
world.
So all I have to do is send details, and then they just put the announcement out. And then during picture day, I'll grab my contact and I'll say, hey, grab me one more of your board members that you like, because that's not always the case that they all like each other. Grab me one. I want her to pose. I want you to line up, and then here's your $50 credit. Go get what you want.
Interesting.
I mean,
Very
I
interesting.
pay them in product, and they're all about it. I mean, they're not on me,
Yeah.
My posts are done. you know.
Well,
Wait.
again, you've found a way to make this organized, and the American Red Cross part of you is coming out.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've got that established. You're utilizing how you're handling your promotional stuff. Is there a main contact you work with for schools and teams? I mean, do you go after the coach or the principals, or how do you target?
We have been very fortunate, and I say we because it is me, but this is a family business. So, and when you catch me saying we, that's why. I
Hmm.
mean, it's constant. Um, Word of mouth. I haven't had to hardly go after anything. So my work has spoke for us, thank goodness, and people come to us. So I don't have to go after it much, but when I do, I usually it's usually a booster that reaches out, but sometimes it's a coach. We're talking varsity level. Um, my bigger 5, 6A schools, it's usually the boosters,
Hmm.
reaching out to me. And then youth, it's now that we have the studio space, we can do one-off teams, meaning, sure, I'll book you. And then I'll start that date, and then I know I'll book other teams behind them, and we'll have a full slate here in the studio. In the past, it's been, well, if we're going to come out, we have to have at least 3 teams show up.
Hmm.
Not cost effective for me to come out there and do one team and run to death. So we did implement that. But most of the times it's just the parents. If it's a youth team, it's a parent, coach's wife, sometimes the coach. It's
Yeah.
all over the board.
Sure.
Some schools, it's my AD. I have a few schools that I work all of my scheduling through the AD. It's rare, but she handles it all. That's the one account that's tops of my head. But most of them, it's the AD's either dropped it down and said, this is who we're using, which I hate that. It's a good thing, it's a bad thing. I'd never want to be forced onto somebody.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't fire. I just try to go in and take care of everybody the best I can. But some schools are ADs, but most of the time it's
So if you've got the luxury of being incredibly talented with your photography, and you're not having to struggle to bring, business in. What would you recommend for somebody that's new and starting out, though, that is kind of like, well, I don't have anybody just knocking my doors down. So, what would you recommend for somebody for the first time if they're really looking to target to get into school and events and such?
we all started somewhere. I
Hmm.
had to do that. So I set up meetings a lot. I mean, get some work, even if you have to get your friend's kid, blah, blah, blah. Get some samples, get something you can push out, because all it takes on these days is social media. All it takes is one parent to say, we want to use you. and it will just trickle from there. When I first started, I remember I had just taken my, I left the Red Cross and I was in a span of where they were still paying me. So, because my job was eliminated, which was a God thing. It was all perfect timing. And I set up meetings with football teams. And I just happened to know somebody in that, a parent, a coach from my kids that got me in. It's all who you know. It is not what you know. To find that one person, but start with the same. If you don't have somebody, start with the sample, get it out there. Get it out there on Facebook and say, hey, da da da. You know,
And a friend of mine also said, Mark, when I first started out doing schools, he told me that he said, I purposely went after the smaller schools so that I could learn. And if I did make a mistake, it didn't affect a lot of people. And he said and plus the bigger shooters, they weren't targeting the smaller accounts. So he said that was really valuable. So that might be something too people could consider, is that, there's nothing wrong with starting with something very small. It allows you to learn from your mistakes and how to get extra organized and move on. Then you've also got samples and you got a testimonial.
yeah, totally agree with that. I mean, that's 110%. I started, my first account was my kid's school. I mean, that's, you don't crap the bed where you sleep. So that, we had to go in and we had to do it right.
You had to deliver.
Because we lived there and we weren't moving, you know. Okay, let's do this. But this was my take on how to do it. I said, I want to give the smaller schools what the big schools have. And that is how I got all of my, and not super, super, super small, but 2, 3, 4A schools. That's how I got a lot of my businesses, because I offered the posters and the banners and all of the things that those big schools had and the budgets, and then made it work for those small schools to where they felt like they were a big school. And that's how we started our program work.
That's
Because the big schools had it, but we never had something like that. So why not give that to the little guy?
That's a great philosophy.
Feel like the big guys, and it just kind of tumbled from there and just grew into what it did. So a lot of my schools are 3, 4A size, but I have some big ones too.
So the other factor in all this is, so now you're going after a school, and depending on that size, let's talk about equipment. You're going to need gear and lighting, and how do you organize all that? Decide what you need. Tell me your kind of your workflow, your thought. How'd you coordinate all that?
It has evolved. I will say that. I'm a Canon girl. Going to put it out there. Sorry about you Nikon people. I'm a Canon girl. The continual learning has changed my equipment over the years. I had a student that is now an assistant coach show up at a volleyball shoot last week. One of my high schoolers, and then she shows up as like, okay, I'm old. And I had a 3-light setup, and I had all this. She goes, "Oh, well, you're professional," and I was like, "And what's that supposed to mean?" Is
that a compliment or an? Yeah.
And so, I mean, and then I started thinking about it. It's like, yeah, I probably when I was shooting her, I probably had one light, or I'm sure I had a light because it was a gym, but it just evolved. So I take out, even in bright sun, there's not a cloud in the sky today, I would take out a light.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that shadow. So
when you look at the job, are you, first of all, finding out, is it outdoor, indoor, time of day, if it's outdoor, the location, you're looking for maybe some tree for shade, and if there's not, then what are you using for your lights?
So right now I do Godox. Mm-hmm. So I almost 100% of the time take out my 8600 because it's my most powerful. And then I usually have rim lights of the 8200s. And it just depends on how many of those I need, or if I even need one, depending on the time of the day. I have one high school near here, very large, it's a 6A school. We're going to do their media day, and they let me pick the time. And I'm like, thank you. So we don't start until 5:30.
That's
So
great.
I got a little bit of it behind me that's fallen behind the bleachers that I know I can shoot on that field and be okay. Softball is usually the worst because they want to do it like, at freaking 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, killing me. And there's nothing around unless you want to shoot in the dugout, which I did last year. But usually I just, I put their back to the sun the best I can and I light them up. And I shoot low so that I can light them up and just make my settings to where I've got that high shutter speed and, it's an nice, even lighting. And that's one of the things that separates me, I think, a lot from just the big house people around here, it's not very saturated, luckily for me, but they don't shoot with light. They just go out with their camera. And
so for your individual shots, you've got a main light, a rim light, and sometimes a background light, or what are you doing?
If it's sunny, I'll just use a one light and use my back
Gotcha.
light. And then if it's really ridiculous and I'm just having a hard time, I usually will take the went out of my head, not a reflector, but a shrim. And I'll be like, hey, come here. I'll take the manager or, I'll just make a senior do it, stand there and say, hey, hold this over there, just do the upper body shot. So, I've done it all. I've tried everything.
And when you do a group shot, are you just doing a light left and right next to your camera? Pow, fire away. What do you do?
Most of the time, I'm going to almost bare bulb it. I've got a round medium modifier, and I usually just did it with baseball. So the sun, it was like 3 o'clock. So I just put that light on the opposite side, wherever that shadow was, and I just filled it and then kind of adjusted it in post to where it was just nice and even.
Yeah.
So I don't, at gym, I will do all the lights. And in gymnasium, basketball, I'll have two sides, I'll have a center. But outside, no. Usually
you're trying to overcome the ambient light that turns everybody yellow or green or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So sure, that makes sense. And are you shooting with RAW or JPEG only, or RAW and JPEG? How do you handle the capture?
I am an all RAW girl, and I'll probably get some flack for that. But I want total control of that image. So especially in some of the situations we're put in. I mean, you've got some gyms that are great LEDs. You've got some gyms that are 80 years old and, we're flickering lights. So I always shoot everything in RAW.
And then you take it into post-processing through Lightroom, or what are you doing there?
I do Lightroom. And for all of our varsity, it's very different than our youth. Our varsity is all done online through a third party. I just run it through Lightroom, make the adjustments how I want it, and it's pretty much straight out of camera, so I got to make sure I get it right on the field. I'll run it through once, then I'll run it through again with a little logo in the corner, like the year, school, whatever, and then I upload and I go. Done. Nice. Yeah, for varsity, yeah.
Very nice. And then for the actual day of the shoot, how do you organize names with the image you're capturing? What are you doing there?
So there's, for the regular TNI for varsity, I don't care. It's all online. Picture, that's how they identify themselves. So I don't care who's who. So, but when I stop to do the banners for the seniors, which is almost every account that I go to, then sometimes I'll have a sheet that they sign in. Sometimes I hand them my phone and say, here, type your name in here on notes, just so I know who you are. And easy as that. I keep everything very minimal. I have to.
Sure. It works for you. Again, you've handled Texas and Oklahoma Red Cross. So I know you can do it. And then posing and lighting. Well, we talked about lighting, but what about posing? Is there like 3 main poses you show and they do, or what do you do there?
I do this with both youth and varsity. So varsity, we do one full body, always do one full body for sure, and one upper body. And then a lot of the times I have to do media work for them. And so I'll be like, put your hands behind your back and do one. And that's usually my standard 3 poses. I have pose sheets and pose platforms that I'll put out there on the field and go, here, pick your pose. I don't care what you do. Just do one full body, one upper body, one hand's behind your back.
Mm-hmm.
And lets them use, like if you're a line guy, don't use a ball. If you want to use a ball, but you could just be tough.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell the line guys that don't think you have to use a ball, so, and then with baseball and all the other sports, I'm like, grab a bat, grab a glove, grab them both.
Mm-hmm.
Do one full body, switch equipment, do one upper body. Make mama happy. Give her options.
How many shots do you take of each kid?
Usually about 3.
So it's just
3 different poses.
3 different poses, 1 shot each?
Usually 2.
2 shots each? Mm-hmm.
Just make sure nobody's blinking or,
Yeah.
light fires and stuff like that.
Sure. I was going to say, man, if you can just do 1 shot of each pose, you're really confident, but no, it's good that you're efficient though, because you really have to move quick, don't you? I mean, really, you're talking 1 to 2 minutes with each, if that much, with a kid, right?
Seconds.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, luckily, I've been known for is that we get them in and out. We're very quick. And our youth sports, I composite everything. So everything's a little bit different with youth, but the coaches, since we moved to that several years ago, the coaches absolutely love it, especially during football season.
For those that don't know what you're talking about with composite, what are you talking about there?
So we do all of our youth on green screen. So we shoot all green screen, extract them, and then create the teams. So the coaches love it because they get up there, they take their 2 poses, they take their team shot, and then they can go.
They don't have to worry about, now you got to go over to this area, get lined up, start getting ready, people on their knees and all that.
Here we had, it was probably 33 first grade football players. And we're trying to, first of all, get them in the frame, and then first graders. That's all I need to say,
Yep.
And I said, this is it. I can't do this anymore. There was somebody picking their nose. There was somebody crying. There was somebody looking at their neighbor. There was somebody pulling. I mean, you could not get an image. And because we do it the way we do, every kid looks good.
Yeah.
You can see every kid. Nobody's ducking. And the parents love it. And they'll come in and see our samples here in the studio. And they're like, no, this is what she does. And it's great. Just trust her. With new. And to hear those testimonies when parents are in here, that makes it all, because they're like, no, trust her. This is what she does. Just okay, you can leave now. I'll go to those kids in and out. Believe me, I want them in and out of here as fast as I can get them.
Amen. And when you talk about green screen, again, for anybody that's maybe kind of new to this, can you give a quick description of what that process is to photograph it, and then how do you handle the workflow part?
So on the green screen, we have a permanent green screen set up here in the studio, but I actually obviously have a mobile because we have to do banners and stuff on site. So I just have a 5x8 setup that's super easy to pop up. It's a 3-light setup. You have to have light to separate those kids from the background, or you won't be able to extract it well at all. So I have a 3-light setup. 2 behind, 1 in front. I mean, this is done by different people all different ways. You can have boom lights over. You can have, it's just kind of your look. I'm a 5 foot, so I'm little, and it's hard for me to use that boom light, although I'm trying to here in the studio because I have a little more flexibility. But that's my basic is the 3-light setup. Shoot it on green screen, bring it back. I use PixNub software that does the easy green screen removal. Hit a button after they're sorted through Lightroom, extracts it, and then I move forward with whatever I want to create. So it's all done right there.
And what backgrounds, what are you using? Stock images from something, or where do you get your backgrounds?
I have everybody's. I've helped pay mortgage on everybody's house, I'm sure. I have Josh Hanna, I have Ben Shirk, all the greats. Third Creative, he's one of my new favorite people. I met him at Sync last year. And sometimes I have to stock when I do things. If I'm doing something for print comp or I want to use a composite image, I know I can't use any of their stuff. So I've got to head to Adobe Stock and see what I can find or build, or I collect all these templates, and then sometimes I'll tear them apart and be like, well, I like this dirt, but I like this background. Well, I like these lights. And so I tend to do that. I rarely use a template as it came. For one, I don't want it to look like somebody else's.
Yes.
That's the major one. So there's always a tweak of something different to
Very
what I.
smart. Well, again, when you see your work, it is so, it's just dynamic. I think that's the key, Brandy, is just, any parent. I'm one of those parents, and my wife too. We would have bought the crappy stuff even because you just love your kid. But the bonus is, when you've got someone like you that shoots something that is like, wow, this is awesome, suddenly it's like now you want more because you're really excited about it. So, how do you do the sales then? Is it all online? What do you do there?
So here in the studio and with youth. Now, varsity, we know the sales are a fraction of what they are with youth. That's one of the reasons I went online. You don't have the parents in front of you. The sales are lower until they're seniors. So we just that was an easy given. And we just put the basic stuff in those carts, magnets, posters, buttons, just the stuff. Here in the studio, we actually have right behind me, we have lockers and you can open them up and it has all of our different samples.
Mm.
So we have all of that open when the parents walk in. So before they see my husband, they're already looking. And 9 times out of 10, there's a kid they know.
So I'm going to stop you there. So you've got what a genius way to display your products for sale. They walk in, there's actually physical lockers. Yeah, you talk so they can hear, otherwise the screen's on me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you can see it though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those lockers right there, found those. Inside is just like everything that we offer. And so they can pick it up, hold it, see everything. And then when they go online, because they're going to go online to order, they have an idea of what, they're like, oh, I remember seeing that. That's what I want to order. And so, because they don't order here now. They used to do paper forms and we ordered everything right here. But now we're giving them options to see their images because we were tired of parents saying, well, I want to see it first. Can I see it? Which this is that generation.
Mm-hmm.
No surprise element anymore.
Yeah. Well, that is a brilliant way of displaying something because again, it adds value, adds impact. It helps people visualize what they're going to end up with. So yeah, and then do you have all your pricing? How do you handle your pricing? Is that all online or what are you doing there too?
We do so we give the parents with the youth now an option. So they come in, this is our new thing we started this year. And it's just dipping our toes to see if it works. And it worked. So we say, we're going to give you an option now to see. So you're going to have usually around six to eight different images to see. Maybe the same pose, but different backgrounds. They put $20 down that day to have the opportunity to choose their image. They get that $20 back when they take out. So it's just a credit. Or they can do an old school paper form, which we keep right there on the table. You do this old school order form, we pick it. We pick the image, that's what you get. Here's your money, here's your order. So we've kind of done those two things. Our prices are very reasonable, very reasonable. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what percentage would you say where they control it, the pose, and pay you the $20 versus you pick it? What are you finding for a ratio?
Out of all the teams we worked with for baseball season, baseball is probably one of our smaller seasons. I know it's weird, but we don't do action and stuff. I would say we probably had less 5 to 8 order forms out of probably 500 kids.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So do you think you'll even offer that in the future, or is that something you gotta always kind of have because there's always a few that can't?
We're gonna have to. I mean, you always have those grandparents who are only running cash. You've got, in the rural schools, you're always going to run into that. So we'll always have that as a backup. But 9 times out of 10, these parents, they want to see it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all you have now, getting them to get back on there and order, we've had a little issue with that. Mm-hmm. So I kind of have to say, here's your deadline. And we put a deadline on it. We have to, or I'll be printing baseball in December.
And is it just through your website, Brandy, that you're doing this, or What are you using?
We're actually using for our preview galleries Pixie Set.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And because I can do all the ordering, because we print in-house. So that's another thing that helps is we print in-house. So they get the gallery link, it comes straight to my mail, I print it, and then send it off. So for football, we're going to have to tweak things because it's a lot more kids, probably less poses, but they'll still have the option to pick. But we're still tweaking it, and it's done. That's done through a link. We're building our new website right now, which is help me, and we're hoping to have that as a link on our website that they can go to do as well. But usually it just goes to the team group me. And only if you put a deposit down is your kid on there. So I'm not going to.
Smart.
Yeah. So I know you can't use my $20 and not give $20 because your kid's not there.
Smart.
If you pay that 20, then we'll create those images for you. But I had to do something because that's a lot of work without a lot of guarantee.
Yeah.
But, in the past, our baseball orders were $20 to $28 average because they couldn't see it. So they picked one of those bottom two packages. Well, I would say 90% of the orders that came through this spring, because we gave that option, used the 20 and then spent it again. So what would have been just throw a number out there, a $4,000, $20 ended up in almost $10,000 in sales.
What a difference.
It was ridiculous.
Wow.
It worked.
Wow.
But now we got to figure it out.
It only took you
Yeah.
a few years, right? And experience. Yeah. Very smart.
Everybody's like, well, just put them online, use the photo day, the got photo. It's hard when you have to hand over that much money. And for us, it's really good for certain aspects, but for our youth, we're going to keep it in our house. We're going to keep it in our control and do all the processing ourselves.
And with your packages, do you do like good, better, best, super, and then add-ons? And how many add-ons? How do you handle your sales that way?
We have 4 different packages. One's like the ultimate, and then they kind of tier down from there. Believe it or not, our second to top is our most popular because it has a poster.
Yeah.
And then there's just the 8x10 one and then the 5x7 ones. We do not do memory mates as part of packages because those are in the rear. So that is an add-on. That is an extra item. We don't require a package to order a button. Like if grandma comes up and she just wants a button, okay, get you a button. We don't do that.
No minimum, no, you're hassle-free.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they love you. That's why people keep coming back, right?
I hope so. Yeah.
And speaking of which, how do you maintain your contracts? Are you doing any follow-up right after? Are you giving them little gifts or anything? Or do they just love you enough where...
I've been fortunate, I guess. I mean, a lot of it's interesting because a lot of the people I work with have become friends. And I mean, and I would consider them that. So I actually have one contract in all of my accounts, one, and it's for the school that my kids went to. And I only did that because we lived there. I didn't want to get sideswiped being a member of that community with my kids. Now they're all graduated. So I'm kind of like,
It's a little different priority, but well, again, if you're somebody new, do you recommend doing some sort of follow-up, or what's your thoughts there?
Always. And I do give out gifts. I give, I hand deliver. I do a lot on the backside and throughout it that I'm always in communication. And a lot of these coaches, they're cross teams. So my football coaches are my basketball coaches for youth. So I'm working with these same parents season after season after season, and they just know I'll take care of them and they don't have to worry about it. So,
Speaking of delivery, do you deliver everything all at once to the coach, or or the school or whatever? What do you do for delivery?
So the only high school varsity that I deliver to is my kids' school because I can hear the complaints now. of having to pay shipping when I live up the street. So that one I deliver. Everything else varsity's done through my third party, so it's delivered straight to their house. All of our youth for baseball, we tried the individual shipping, which we did, and it killed me.
Oh, so much work to do, you mean? Detail and
It was just the whole making the labels and packing it and mailing it. And I just swear every other day I was hitting $100 on my stamps.com, 100 more dollars, 100 more, it was just the cost of it. So we learned that's not going to work at all. So for football, it will be, here's your deadline. And then after that, everything will be processed and it will go back to the coach. Just like we've always done paper forms, we will not mail unless they pay us to, because it's just too much work, too many kids, too many orders. Not going to do that.
Well, again, you've learned you're not reinventing the wheel. It's just about what's going to make you happy and make your business fit you rather than you have to constantly adjust for your business.
Yeah. And getting one of the big key things I found this year as I listened to some of my friends and they're just drowning, and it kills me. It hurts me terribly because I've been there. But like I've learned through the years now, so June, I got an account that I work the first week of June, and it's the Oklahoma All-State baseball games. And I do all their program work. I do all their formal pictures, their team pictures, the action shots for all the games. And it's a 2-day event, the banquet, everything. But that will pay me for a lot of June because it's always coming through online and I can take off. So June is kind of my, like mid-June to mid-July, I can actually just shut the doors, turn it off, and just recoup, which is what we're doing right now.
Nice.
So it's very nice. I have little random things here and there, but it's not jam-packed like it usually is. So that's one of the things I've learned is that you got to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Well, again, your balance is admirable. And I guess before we run out of time, I could go forever on these. It's always fun talking to people like you. Do you have any other additional tips or advice before we close out here?
Find your limits. That's number one. I mean, go get it, but I see continuously, this is what I hate. I see continuously online and on these Facebook groups, I just got a league of 500 kids. What do I need? Why did you book it? Number one question. It's all I can do. Find what you can do. Start small. Always start small. And have, there's nothing wrong with having a full-time job and doing this as your sidekick. That's what I did. I did that for years until I was ready and the time was right that I could make the leap. But, start small. Do what you can control. Do what you can handle. Do not go out and get 1,000-kid league when you don't even have lights.
Yeah.
Don't have any, don't do that. You will kill yourself and your business all in one big foul swoop. You'll be done.
Good advice.
Yeah, just do what you can do.
If people want to get a hold of you, Brandy, what's the best way to reach you?
Text me. I'm a texter. I'm not going to lie.
Well, are you sure you want to give your text phone number?
You can find me on Facebook. I've got my personal page, and I'm on there with a lot of, the volume. I'm probably in all the volume groups. You can find me that way. Our website's being refinished right now, so I would say steer clear of that. But any social media, I'm on Instagram, Facebook.
So you're just Brandy Moton, M-O-T-O-N. You'll find you on the social media pages there.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you very much. Let's do this again another time, Brandy.
Yes.
That was fun. All right. My name is Mark Weber. Again, if you want to reach me, you can call me at 800-228-0629, extension 283. Otherwise, you can email me, markw@marathonpress.net. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you again next time.